What is going on, YouTube? Welcome to the Living Free channel. In this video, I'm going to be talking about how to get through your first year in trucking. Yes, the hardest year in your trucking career is going to be your first year. And I'm going to talk about what I believe you need to focus on, the things you don't need to worry about, all of that good stuff. Why am I making this video? Well, because I did get asked a question by a subscriber, and that was, what's your advice to people for their first 12 months in the business? And so, yeah, that's what I want to talk about in this video, or in my video for today. I have posted a couple videos today, but that's just me trying to find a driver for one of my trucks. But this video is actually going to be for my normal content for the day. And so I do think it's a great question, because it is true that the hardest year in trucking is definitely your first year. The true stats of as far as turnover rate goes, the stats are pretty much like 90% of new CDL drivers end up quitting before their first year is up. And so if you're watching this video, don't let that be you. Don't let the opportunity of getting a CDL and getting into trucking slip through your fingers just because you're going to go through some hard times that first year. And why is it so hard the first year? Well, number one, everything's new to you. You're learning to drive this big, massive vehicle. You're learning to, pretty much do the day-to-day job as a truck driver. And it does take time. It takes time to learn how to navigate across the country. It takes time to learn how to back. It takes time to learn how to drop and hook trailers. It takes time to just learn how to do the job safely and efficiently. But like I said, I'm going to talk about, what to be focused on and what not to be focused on in the first year. And so this video is really just good for anybody that is brand new to trucking or looking at getting into it. But I did think it was a great question by my supporter. And so, but yeah, the first thing, number one, is look, don't focus on the money right away. I believe don't even focus on what you're getting paid at that first company you start with. Yes, I mean, try to go to a company where they're going to start you out at the highest rate you can get. Of course, try to get that starting out, but that shouldn't be your main focus, because the first year is all about learning. The first year is all about getting your experience. So your main focus needs to be, number one, and I always tell people this, before you even go to a CDL school, figure out what division do you want to be in, because that's going to make a massive difference when it comes to the long-term success of your career. I always tell people on my videos, like, hey, before you get into trucking, before you go to trucking school, do you want to do flatbed, reefer, dry van, tanker, hazmat, like doubles, triples? What do you want to do? Before you get in, you need to, figure out what endorsements you need to do, what type of trucking you want to do. Figure that out before you sign up for the school. Why? Because let's say you want to do like oversized loads at some point. You want to get into heavy haul and oversized load. Well, don't go start at a dry van company or a reefer company. Start out where you want to end up. And most of the time, in this example, you want to do like oversized load or heavy haul. You need to start out at a flatbed company, a company that does flatbed or step deck. If you want to do reefer, start out at a reefer company. If you want to do driving, you get the point. That's what you need to focus on before you get in. Okay, and there's starter schools, there's starter trucking companies for every division that I just named. But you want to begin where you want to end up. 100%. Don't just go to any school. Think it through. What do I want to do long term in this industry? And start where you want to end up. So that's number one. Number two, then you need to focus on becoming as safe of a driver as possible. You need to know all the rules of the road. You need to really study how to back. You need to really work on maneuvering the truck. You need to work on your load planning and navigation skills, learning all the different interstates and U.S. highways. And all of that stuff. The first year really should be, your focus should be getting through that first year without an accident, without a ticket, and, getting through your first winter, your first spring season, learning how to navigate around Chicago and Atlanta and New York and, LA, and you get the point. It's learning how to do the job. It should be your main focus. Yes, you want to make money too, and I'm going to get into that and how you can make, at least maximize your pay, even at your starter company. I'll get into the time management thing towards the end, but that is the main thing. Your main focus should be learning. And too many drivers come in and expect to be making like $100 grand a year their first year. And it's more than likely not going to happen. 95% of you are going to come in and you can realistically probably make about 60 to 70,000 your first year. But then once you get that year of experience, and yeah, it's going to be tough. It's going to be a lifestyle change. Think about it. You're going from the day-to-day, routine life to, working a job where your schedule fluctuates all the time. You're in a different time zone every day. You're in a different city every day. It's not like a normal job in the sense of like you wake up, you go to work at this time, you get off at this time, and it's just routine. It's not like that. Your days are going to be different all the time. Some days you're going to be driving in the rain. Some days you're going to be driving in the snow. Some days you're going to be driving where it's sunny. Some days you're going to be in the mountains. Some days you're going to be in the plains. It's just, and that's what I liked about the job. I did like that there was a change of scenery and a change, just every day was different. I did love that about driving, but not everybody likes that. So you need to make sure that you're okay with that. If you're a very routine person where you have to get up and, do the same thing every single day, like cookie cutter, trucking's not going to be for you, and you're probably going to quit. But if you're okay with the adventure, if you're okay with the change, then like I said, just, the toughest part's just going to be really just learning how to be a safe and efficient truck driver. Really, just learning the skills of doing the job. And especially, if you start out with something more specialized like flatbed, you're going to have to learn to secure loads and tarp loads. And, and just there's a lot of different things you got to learn. Moral of the story, focus on learning, focus on being safe, legal, and as efficient as you can, and get through that first year accident-free and ticket-free. Because after that first year, just remember, while you're learning and while you're going through those growing pains, just remember, after you get a year or two of experience, that's where all the really good paying jobs come in. If you want to make 6 figures a year, really, you need to aim to get 2 years of experience, accident and ticket free. And once you hit that, that's where the 6-figure jobs come in. And especially if you do what I said and you get your endorsements or specialize, and you don't have to have endorsements to make that kind of money, but you will need to get experience, and you will need to do what most drivers are unwilling to do. Okay. And what is that? Most drivers don't want to do OTR. They don't want to get their endorsements. They don't want to run days. They don't want to run nights. They don't want to run this part of the country, that part of the country. If that's you, you're not going to make any money in trucking. But if you're willing to run days and nights and weekends and hustle and work, you have a work ethic, you can make really good money even your first year. But after you get that year or two, that's where the money really starts to be a real thing, because, the companies that pay the most money typically want, experience. It's common sense, right? The drivers with the more experience, a longer track record, a longer work history are going to demand a higher pay. That's just the way it is. That's the way this industry is. That's the way most jobs are, most careers are. The experienced workers, the experienced people get the most money, and trucking's no different. So just remember that when you're going through this first year, be humble too. Not everybody gets a good trainer. Not everybody gets someone that they really like, but it's not about that. Go to your school, get your CDL, and, just listen to your trainer, get through it. Don't fight with them. Just get through it. As long as they're respecting you as a person, you don't have to like them. Just get through the training. And then once you get into your own truck, focus on doing what I said. And, and then like I always talk about, use that first year to figure out, okay, if I'm in debt, if you're in debt, I need to pay off my debt. Start working towards that. If you're not in debt, start saving up a 6-month emergency fund. If you already have an emergency fund and you're out of debt, start figuring out, okay, what do I want to do with my money? Do I want to invest in stocks? Do I want to save up and buy real estate? Do I want to save up and become an owner operator? These are the things you want to be thinking about in your first year, because you want to think long term. You want to have a 5-year plan for your career. If you don't do that and you just get in and you just drive and that's all you do, you just drive, make a paycheck, and when you're off, you blow all your money, this isn't going to be a good job. It's not going to be a good career. But if you do think ahead and you figure out what you want to do before you get into it, and you begin where you want to end up, if you focus on learning everything you can about how to be a good truck driver, a good, safe, efficient truck driver, you will get good at the job and you will make good money. What is one of the biggest things too, and I said I wanted to end with this really, is you need to learn how to manage your clock, because the clock is your money in trucking. And in that first year, you want to do all the things I said, but the main thing you want to do is learn how to manage your clock, okay? You want to be stopping maximum 4 times a day, 3 to 4 times a day. So if you start your clock, you should pretty much be, doing your pre-trip. And then once you start driving, you should be running for about 3 to 4 hours before you take that first, break, that first restroom break. And then, after that first break, you run that clock all the way down until your 30-minute break. Then after your 30-minute break, you should pretty much be running until you have to shut down for the day. I would say 3-4 times max you stop. Also, when you shut down, you should be setting an alarm or setting a stopwatch and be getting up. You do have a 10-hour break, but you should be getting up about 30 minutes before that 10-hour break is up. And that way, when the clock hits 10 hours and your clock resets, you're ready to go on duty and you're ready to run. Don't be in the sleeper berth for 12, 13, 15 hours. Don't do that unless you have to wait for like an appointment time to deliver or pick up. That's different. But for the most part, you're able to stick with that and not stop too often. Also, be getting up at the 10-hour break. You need to be ready to go when that 10-hour break is up, because if you do stay in sleeper berth for 2, 3, 4 hours longer than that 10-hour break, and you do that for 3-4 times a week, those hours add up, and that's time lost, that's opportunity cost. It's costing you a lot of money not knowing how to manage your clock. That is like the #1 skill of being a trucker, really. Honestly, if you don't know how to manage your clock, you're not going to make any money. You're not. That is the trick to the trade. That is 100%. So again, focus on learning how to maneuver, backing, drop and hook, pretty securing loads, just the skill set of driving and doing the job, but time management, also be strategic learn how to be strategic in where you shut down. It's better to stay at rest areas and, just pull-offs than it is to stay at truck stops. Why? Because getting in and out of truck stops takes time, and time is money. Time is money, period. But in trucking, time is everything. Time management is going to make or break you in this business. I don't care if you own the truck, you don't own the truck. If you don't know how to manage your clock, I can't stress it enough. That is the #1 skill you should be learning in the first year. And, those are the things, man. Don't stop the truck too much. Don't stay in sleeper berth too much. Another thing too, learn to communicate with your dispatcher. Learn communication skills. Learn how to let them know, hey, here's when I'm going to be available after I drop this load. That way they can start planning your loads ahead of time. Communicate. Most drivers don't do that. They don't call ahead. They don't communicate well with their dispatcher. Be willing to do your dispatcher favors. Don't turn down loads. If they give you a load, don't turn it down. Don't complain, oh, it's going here, it's going there, or it's picking up too early, or it's picking up too late. No, do not turn down loads. Run what they give you. And if you do that, if you learn to manage your time, you learn to communicate, and you're safe and efficient, man, your dispatcher is going to favor you. They're going to see that you're a very productive and professional driver, and they're going to favor you. They're going to give you the best loads. That is the way it is at every company, guys. I'm just going to be honest with you. Yes, dispatchers do have favorites. They do. They give their best loads to the drivers that they can trust, and it makes sense. It's a business. You got to think bigger picture when you go and work for a trucking company. That company has freight to move. They have contracts. They have customers that they have to pick up, their freight and deliver it safely and legally and on time. And they're going to give their best paying freight, their top loads to their top drivers that they know can get the job done. That's why I'm saying you need to learn all these things. You need to, take your job seriously. Take your job seriously. You shouldn't be worried about buying a truck and being an owner-op and being, having your authority or leasing on or being a lease driver. That shouldn't even be what you care about in the first 2 years of driving, in my opinion. I say you take definitely the first year, you shouldn't care about that. And really the first 2 years, you should be learning how to do the job well, learning how to manage your time, getting good at trucking. Once you are good at trucking, then worry about the business stuff. But if you're not a good trucker, you're not going to make good money no matter what. It's that simple. And if you're, hitting stuff, backing into things and, getting tickets and all this stuff, none of it's going to matter, man. Your most important thing in trucking is your record, is your driving record. Do you have tickets? Do you have accidents? That's going to affect everything. That should be your biggest thing. That's what you should be focused on. So I'm answering his question, directly, but I'm talking to everybody who is, considering getting into trucking or they're new. Yeah, and I understand there's a lot of really bad starter companies out there, and I'm just going to end with this. There's a lot of really bad places to start at, but there's some good ones to start at. But really, it doesn't matter. Your first year is all about just getting your license, getting your experience, and, getting through that first year. And after you get through the first year, though, the sky is the limit. Like I always talk about in every other video, the sky is the limit. But yes, your first year is the toughest. Just get through it, suck it up, do what you got to do, and you can make a really good living in trucking, and you can set yourself up financially, not just yourself, but your family up financially as well, if you do a lot of the other things I discuss on this channel. So that's my video for today. That's what I suggest for your first year in trucking. God bless. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for the next video. Peace out.